All right, so this lesson, if you're in trigonometry, is in 4.1, and if you're in pre-calc, it is 3.1. Last video, we talked about the graphs of exponential log functions. Now we're going to break down the math portion first of exponential functions. So I'm just going to go over first how to use your calculator. Let's look at this word problem. It says that this function f of x predicts the number of O-rings expected to fail at x degrees Fahrenheit on a space shuttle. Find the number expected to fail at 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So all you're going to do is plug in this 40 into your x. Okay? So let's take a look at our calculators. We should be putting 13.49. Open your parentheses. And then 0.967. Close your parentheses. Put that little TP button, which is underneath the clear button right here above your division. And it should jump you up to the top. Plug in your 40. If you want to get out of your exponent, you have to press the right arrow. And now you're back to your normal font, -1. Okay? Press enter. And you should get 2.524. 2.524. Remember, especially for those of you planning to take AP, I'm trying to train you to always write 3 decimal points. That's what they expect on AP. And when you do write 3 numbers after the decimal, you do not have to round, okay? And of course, this is a word problem, so we're going to write our units, and these are O-rings. Okay? Now, one of the most common exponential functions that we see is e. Okay? So e is a base. We need to always remember that e is a base to a function. So if you want to know what e represents, we need to plug something in here that'll tell us that. So for example, if I say 5 to the first, anything raised to the first power is itself. It's 5. So in that same way, if we say e to the first, our calculators will tell us, whether we forget in the future, what e is. So your e button is on the ln button, which is next to the number 4. So you press second, ln, it puts the e. It already gave you the little box in the exponent, and just put the number 1. And there you have your value for e. So e is kind of like pi, where it's a symbol that stands for a number. Okay? So we'll put 2.718. So let's take a look at this next example. It says a population can be modeled by this function f of x. Okay? And that reads 8 times e raised to 0.8x. A says find how many people were originally in the population. What do you think originally means? Yeah, that x, or time, was 0. Okay? So now all I have to do is say f of 0 equals 8 times e raised to 0.8 times 0. Now, I know we were practicing our calculator, but this is one of those you don't need a calculator. 0 times 0.8 is 0. Anything raised to 0? No, is 1. Be careful. Anything raised to 0 is 1, and then 8 times 1? 8. So there were originally 8 people. Okay? So part B says how many people are there 10 years later? So 10 is your time. And now I'm saying f of 10. So 8 times e raised to 0.8 times 10. Now, I don't know about you, but I could do 0.8 times 10, but I don't really know e raised to that number. So go ahead and take out your calculator. Okay? And we're going to plug that in. 8, second, ln for the e, 0.8, And in parentheses, or you could put the multiplication sign, you could put times 10. And you should get 23,847.6639. Okay? Yes, 8 times 10 was in the exponent. All right, the last topic for exponential functions is going to be compounded interest. I love this section. I feel like this is what you use most in your life, especially when you're going to take out loans, whether it be for college, for a car, for a home. And it's also the way you can make money when you take out some sort of investment or a retirement fund and things like that. So let's look at these two equations. A stands for the total amount that if you're investing, you will get in return, or if you're taking out a loan that you will end up paying. P is the principal amount. It's the original amount you either borrow or give. R is rate. They're going to give you the rate as a percentage. And when you put it in the equation, you have to change that percentage to a decimal. Okay? T is time, where they tell you 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And then N is how many times they will apply that interest per that time. So if they tell you it's going to happen for 5 years, but 4 times in that year, N and T get multiplied up in that exponent. Okay? And then, so for example, if they say it happens quarterly, you know that N would be 4 times within each year. Okay? Now, this second equation down here is if instead of telling you compounded quarterly, semi-annually, annually, if they say compounded continuously, keyword continuously, then you use this equation. You might have heard the acronym PERT, but it's P, principal, times E, raised to rate times time. Okay? So let's look at this question we have here. It says, find the accumulated value of an investment. So when you are investing, you are the one making the money, okay? Of $15,000. What do you think $15,000 is? Which one of the variables? Good, it's my principal. It's the initial amount that I put in, okay? And you're going to do this investment for 2 years. What is that? That's your time. At an interest rate of 3.2%. That's your rate. And how am I going to want to write my rate in my questions? 0.032. Okay? Now, part A says that I'm going to compound it semi-annually. What does that mean? What is 2? My N. My N in the equation is going to be 2. Okay? So, my equation, we're going to set it up and then we're going to plug it in our calculator. It says my amount can be found by multiplying P, the initial amount, times 1 plus the rate divided by N is 2, raised to N, which is 2, times the years, which is also 2. We all see that setup? So now let's look at what this looks like in our calculator. If you have the TI-84, I'm a big fan of it. This comes out really nice all in one step. So I'm going to put my 1500 parentheses 1 plus. And now being that this is a fraction, you're going to use alpha y equals 0.032. Whoops, what did I do? 15,000 times 1 plus, all right, here we go, 0.032 over 2. If you don't have this calculator and you cannot put that fraction in there, you need to write this portion, this 0.032 divided by 2, in a whole new set of parentheses with a division sign in between. Okay? Be careful with that. close parentheses, and then an exponent of 2 times 2. Press enter, and you get 15,983 and 28 cents, okay? So don't forget your units. We are talking about money, so all you have to do is put your dollar sign. And I'm going to round that up to 29. So this number represents A, which is the total amount that I made off of the investment. So did you make 15,900 and whatever dollars? No, because how much did you put in initially? 15,000. So what did you make in 2 years? Right. So it may not seem like a big deal to you, but all you did was let somebody hold your $15,000. You sat there and did nothing, and you just made close to $1,000. So pros, you sat there, did nothing, and made almost $1,000. Con is you got to make sure you don't need those 15,000 because the moment you touch it, some companies don't let you, but the moment you touch it, all this ends and you stop making money. So you have to make sure you have that quantity of money ready to put aside. Okay? So let's set up these next 3 equations, and then I'll give you a moment to put in your calculator, and we'll check out the final answer. The only thing that changes in B, C, and D is how much it is compounded, okay? B says quarterly. What is that going to change in my equation? N, and it will be? Good. Quarterly means 4 times a year. On C, monthly is going to change what? My N to 12. Very good. And then how about for D, compounded continuously? Good. It completely changes the formula to the one that we said the acronym was PERT, okay, which does not have an N. So let's take a moment and set up those equations. All right, guys, so this is what your next 3 equations should look like. Being that on the next 2, only the N's changed, you can see that these numbers right here are the only things that changed, okay? The 2's in B became a 4, and then in C became the 12. All right, and then in D, compounded continuously is a whole new equation. So it is P, your initial amount, 15,000, times E, raised to my rate as a decimal, times time. All right, so now we're going to take a moment to plug that into our calculator. So here's our calculator with our last 3 answers, okay? So with these calculators, you have the freedom of scrolling up and just changing the numbers. And then the last equation should have the PERT equation, okay? So we're going to take a moment and fill in those answers. Remember, we are talking about money. So C is 15,987 and 31 cents. So really quick, one of my students pointed out that I had missed a 0 here. So if you were looking at the calculator, check this answer one more time. Okay. Right now we are on C, which is 15,990 and 2 cents. And D is $15,991, and we'll round it to 39 cents. Okay? So we were mentioning that how you compound it doesn't make that big of a difference on how much money you make. The biggest things that'll make a difference is how long you leave your money there, how much money you put in, and what your interest rate is. All right, and that closes off this lesson.